It's one of the biggest stories in Washington right now. Or is it? A spike in COVID-19 cases among D.C. elites, including cabinet members and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. It's been all over the news, but the Biden administration reportedly thinks the press is focused on the wrong thing. Quote, White House upset by media focus on administration's COVID-19 cases rather than on the relief bill. That's according to Yahoo News, referring to impending shortfalls of pandemic-related funding. Let's address both storylines with Catherine Wu, staff writer at The Atlantic, which covers science. Her latest article is about this apparent new wave titled, America is staring down its first so what wave of the pandemic. Catherine, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So what is the so what wave? This is a reference to Americans shrugging, moving on, not willing to take precautions anymore, right?
Yeah, in part. And I think, we're at this point in the pandemic where a lot of precautions have gone away, and that includes testing. It's making it a lot more difficult to detect cases. And so if we do see a potential rise in cases, as many states are experiencing now, it's going to be really hard to get a handle on how fast those cases are rising and sort of to what magnitude, which makes it very hard to react.
Yeah, we're almost back in the dark because everybody's testing with those at-home tests that don't get reported to the government, so we don't know how many people are positive, so we're in the dark. Now, is the White House right that the focus should be more on pandemic funding and less on mild cases of COVID-19 that are being experienced by D.C. elites?
It's hard to argue that you can focus on only one and not the other, that they really go hand in hand. I mean, the goal is to be injecting as many resources into the country as possible. I think at this point, we still do not have equitable distribution of all of these resources. Not enough funding has come through by any stretch of the imagination. And the main place that these resources are going are to those same communities that have had access to those same resources throughout the entire pandemic, tests, new treatments. And unless those resources are distributed equitably, it's really hard to see how we can move on and actually achieve whatever new normal we're trying to aim for.
And meanwhile, that's happening in the U.S., this new normal, these shrugs. I'm fascinated about what we're seeing out of China, especially out of Shanghai. These incredible lockdowns, forcing people to stay in their apartments because of COVID spreading in the city. It feels like China is doing something very, very different from much of the rest of the world. And citizens are posting videos showing the discontent, showing unrest in some cases in the streets. What is your impression of what China is doing and these severe draconian lockdowns in Shanghai?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, throughout the pandemic, China has taken a far more extreme approach than many other countries. And I think this does reflect their hope that they can still keep COVID out of the country. I'm not sure that that is going to be sustainable long term. I mean, clearly it's not if this is the reaction we're seeing. But I think in many ways, we are seeing two extremes of a spectrum, a complete, relaxing of measures. This is not a big deal anymore to this is the end of the world. We have to make sure that COVID stays out of our lives entirely. We need to navigate what is in the middle, recognizing that this virus is here to stay long term, but also recognizing that we need to make changes on our side of things to make that a sustainable coexistence and to minimize suffering to the extent that we can.
Definitely check out Catherine's full story at theatlantic.com. Thanks for being here. Good talking with you.
Thank you so much.
Up next here, Claire Atkinson and Oliver Darcy are back talking about uproar at NBC News and some news out of CBS as well. We're back to run through some of the other big media stories of the week. Oliver Darcy and Claire Atkinson back at the table. First up, Oliver, you're reporting about Jen Psaki, who is still White House press secretary, who is expected to join MSNBC next month. She's going to have a show on the streaming service Peacock. And you heard that ruffled some feathers inside NBC News, inside the news division at NBC.
Yeah, it's definitely left, Brian, some people inside NBC News feeling very upset. They think that this might tarnish the NBC News brand.
Why?
Well, because Jen Psaki, I mean, there is a history of White House press secretaries going to news organizations, but in this case, there's no transition period from Jen Psaki leaving the White House podium and basically going directly to hosting a show on MSNBC. And this news broke while she's still White House press secretary. So you have like NBC News journalists who it's their job to basically be grilling a future colleague in the briefing room. And so it's an awkward dynamic. So this really did frustrate with NBC News staffers, and NBC News president Noah Oppenheim had to come out and have this impromptu phone call with them basically last week, where he reassured them and kind of drew a distinction to some extent between MSNBC's liberal programming and what NBC News journalists do. And he basically said, what they do is it should not affect your work. You should go out there and continue to work like usual.
Claire?
I think this, first of all, I think she's very compelling television. I like listening to her. I think she's very good at commanding the room. I think she's going to be, you know, a good TV personality. But I do think there's something very, very wrong about being at the podium in the White House, walking out, joining Comcast, presumably being paid millions of dollars to opine on Joe Biden. Like there should be a period of time where, you know, you go off into industry and then you come back and perhaps then you go to TV. But this move seems too fast to me. But I do hear that they're working on something. Perhaps it is a bit of a break between the two jobs to, you know, make sure there are less questions about the ethics.
A couple more NBC headlines. Well, one more, that is Rachel Maddow, who went on hiatus for a couple months. She's back on Monday. And some news at CBS this weekend. Sources confirming that Norah O'Donnell has renewed at the CBS Evening News. There were questions about whether she was going to be renewed or not. And so now CBS staying with her through the next election.
Yeah, that's quite a surprise. It was a surprise that the news came out Friday. It seems like either it was buried or who knows why they broke it on a Friday night.
Odd. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does give some stability to CBS News, some stability.
That's right.
News.
That's right.
And in our final minute, Will Smith. Will Smith, of course, now banned from Academy events for 10 years. Can he come back, Claire? Can he have a strong career in the future?
I think there's a huge pool of goodwill, despite what Will Smith did. Obviously, it was wrong, but his projects are on pause right now. I think a lot of people would be horrified if, you know, he didn't make any more movies and disappeared from the culture. I think he does have a chance to come back.
So Hollywood will turn the other cheek, Oliver?
I think that he's going to need to do an interview and really kind of apologize on camera, do some more there. But I think, yeah, I think there's no way he's gone forever.
Who's going to get the first interview with Will Smith and
you should
with
try
Chris
Brian.
Rock? Yeah. All right, call me, Will. All right, thanks, Oliver. Thanks, Claire. Tonight is the premiere of an extraordinary film about our late friend Anthony Bourdain. Roadrunner is a candid look at his life, his ups, his downs, and his untimely death. Roadrunner premieres tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time here on CNN. And I'll see you tomorrow on CNN Plus. For reliable sources, daily. The State of the Union starts right now.
It looks like we will soon be crowning a new Masters champion on World Sport Today. We will set the scene for you at Augusta. Also coming up, is the Premier League title being decided right now? That's how it feels as Man City go head-to-head with Liverpool. And the prancing horse is dancing again in Formula One. Ferrari are back on top. We've got the highlights from the Australian Grand Prix. Hello there and welcome to World Sport. We're coming to you live from CNN Centre. I'm Don Riddell. The leaders are making their last-minute preparations for the final round of the Masters right now. The last group will be teeing off at Augusta in just over 2.5 hours' time. And even though there is a clear favourite at this stage, we all know that anything can happen on the back nine of a major, certainly at Augusta National. The new world number one, Scottie Scheffler, was running away with the tournament until the last 7 holes on Saturday when the wheels began to come off. Scheffler was 6 strokes ahead, but 4 bogeys on his way back to the clubhouse means that his lead is now only 3. That is still very impressive. We will soon find out if it's going to be enough. His biggest threat will be right alongside him this afternoon, Australia's Cameron Smith. He had a brilliant round on Saturday. In fact, his score of 68 was the lowest of the day, leaving him on 6 under par for the tournament. Like Scotty Scheffler, Smith is also looking for his first major title. Here is the leaderboard. Scheffler sits at 9 under, 3 ahead of Smith and 5 clear of Korea's Sung Jae-im, who was the runner-up here 2 years ago. At this stage, you would think that one of those 3 men will be slipping into the green jacket later this evening. We will soon see. World Sports' Patrick Snell is out at Augusta for us. Patrick, it is clearly Scotty Scheffler's to lose, and given his form over the last few weeks, who would bet against him? However, that wobble on the back nine might have created 1 or 2 doubts. What do you think?
Yeah, I do, potentially. Don, yeah, welcome back to Augusta National. He's opened the door just a little bit, I feel. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think a 3-shot lead, particularly out here on this iconic course, is certainly a little bit precarious at times, shall we say. But Scotty Scheffler very much in the box seat, as you rightly say. The world #1 player looking to get that coveted green jacket in a breakthrough first career major. I want to tap into something that happened very late on in this round Saturday, at the very last hole at 18, where he would end up with a bogey on that hole. But I tell you this, that bogey will feel like a par to him, no question. He puts his drive into the woods. It could have been a lost ball. It could have ended up being 3 off the tee, a penalty there of stroke and distance. And for a while, the normally unflappable Scheffler looking just a little bit concerned, speaking with the rules official, trying to assess his options. But he takes the penalty, an unplayable lie, and puts a magnificent third onto the green through the back, and he gets down in 2 from there, which really is potentially very defining indeed. Imagine if he dropped, another one, a double bogey potentially. The mindset would all have changed going into this final round. But now it's set him up for what could be a career-defining day. Take a listen.
Being in this position, it's nice to be in control of the golf tournament, and all I'm trying to do out there is be committed to my shots and execute. And after that, it's not really up to me. So I'm looking forward to the challenge of tomorrow, and just keep doing my thing. This is a lot more fun than a lot of the starts that I've had in major championships, and especially around this golf course. So for me, this is a good time, and today was a lot of fun, and hopefully tomorrow will be the same.
Well, we'll see. I don't know to what extent Scheffler looks into the stats, but he may well be aware of one in particular, namely, Don, the last player who failed to hold a 3-shot lead or more going into the final round here at Augusta National was a certain Rory McIlroy back in 2011, Don.
Oh, I remember that. That was a painful Sunday afternoon for him. Patrick, meanwhile, Cameron Smith is hard to miss with his blonde mullet out there, and he's also on terrific form, having just won the so-called 5th major at the Players' Championship. How does he feel about chasing down the leader today?
He's a very quietly confident young man. I tell you what, this 28-year-old from Brisbane is pretty feisty when he gets those competitive juices going, and he will certainly not be giving up the hunt, nor should he, coming off that biggest win of his career recently at the Players' Championship. But I tell you what, he got a taste of what it might mean to win here in 2020 when he was tied for 2nd here at Augusta National. There's no question that's potentially a very good springboard for him as we get into the nitty-gritty of the final rounds here. But I do want to tap into more at the Players' Championship recently and his experiences there. He had a round of 68 at Augusta on round 1. I'll throw that in first. A 68 also yesterday to tee this up for him, if you like. But it's what happened at the Players recently that has really got him rejuvenated, if you like. He gets that big career win in front of his mother and sister, who he hadn't seen in more than 2 years at the time due to COVID. He said that was a wonderful moment for him. It increased his confidence level no end, and also he went into that final round of the Players, Don, just 2 shots back. Yet another reason why he won't be giving up the fight just yet. Take a listen.
I can get it done when I'm up against the best guys in the world. It's a good feeling to have. It's earned. It's not given to you. So I'm going to have to go out there tomorrow and play really good golf again, probably similar to today, and and hopefully everything just falls into place. I mean, I can't control what anyone else is going to do tomorrow, so yeah, just go out there and really focus on myself.
I'm going to throw another stat at you. I want to tap into the 1996 Masters, which I remember watching. I'm sure you do, Don. Smith can take heart from this because his compatriot on that day, a certain Greg Norman, blew a 6-shot lead. Norman took a 6-shot lead into the Masters that day in the final round, only to lose out big time to his playing partner, Nick Faldo, who would go on to win the Masters that day. In fact, on that day, Don, on that particular Sunday in '96, there was an 11-shot swing between those two players. Back to you.
Yeah, I remember that very clearly. And as you say, anything is possible. Shout out, Patrick, by the way, to your wardrobe designer for the iconic red shirt today. Very Tiger Woods. Love it, mate. We will have more from Augusta later as we break down Tiger's remarkable return to action this week. And what's up with Cristiano Ronaldo these days? He's not happy, and neither is the fan whose phone he allegedly smashed. Welcome back. We've only had 3 races of the new Formula One season, but it is already so very different from the last. The defending champion, Max Verstappen, is already 46 points off the lead. The 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton, isn't even the best driver in his Mercedes team right now. And for the first time in years, Ferrari looked like a serious outfit. At the Australian Grand Prix on Sunday, Ferrari's young French driver, Charles Leclerc, was dominant. He began from pole position at Albert Park, and he simply never looked back. There was no shortage of drama behind him, though. Verstappen's Red Bull retired from the race with technical problems 2/3 of the way through. That's the second time this season that Red Bull have failed to make it to the finish line. And whilst Mercedes have been disappointing this season, George Russell did make it onto the podium, and he's now second in the drivers' standings. But it was very much Leclerc's day, and he has established himself as the man to beat. He is now 34 points clear of the field, thanks to a couple of wins and a second-place finish. Could this be Ferrari's year? The Scuderia haven't won the world title since 2007, but Leclerc isn't getting carried away just yet. After all, there are still 20 races left in the season.
Obviously, we are only at the 3rd race, so it's difficult to think about the championship. But to be honest, we've got a very strong car. A very reliable car too, and for now we've always been there, so I hope it continues like this, and if it does, then we probably have chances for the championship, which obviously makes me smile after the last 2 years that have been difficult for the team and obviously for myself, so it's great to be back in this position.
All right, let's talk about the Premier League, which is right now witnessing a heavyweight clash at the Etihad Stadium. It is a showdown between the leaders and defending champions Manchester City and the second-place Liverpool team who won the title in 2020. There is only a point between them, and even though there are still 6 weeks left of the season, some people think that this game could be the title decider. They are approaching half-time in Manchester. It began as a slugfest. Man City's Kevin De Bruyne on target after 5 minutes. Diogo Jota equalising for Liverpool after 12. Within the last few minutes, Gabriel Jesus has struck to restore Manchester City's lead. Our senior sports analyst Darren Lewis is here to discuss what has become an absorbing rivalry between these two over the last few years. Great to see you, Darren. Let's start by addressing how we got here, because back in January, Man City were 13 points clear at the top. Liverpool were 14 points off the pace. What happened?
Well, Liverpool happened. The City juggernaut was held to a 1-1 draw at Southampton. They were stunned by Harry Kane and that masterclass for Spurs at the Etihad in February. And in March, City could only draw at Crystal Palace. Liverpool in that time, Don, they've been relentless, winning 10 games in a row to reduce that 14-point gap on January the 15th to just 1. Now, you and I, Pat, we've seen a bit of football in our time, so I know you won't regard this as hyperbole when I say that this is football's, this is the Premier League's version of the Rumble in the Jungle, the Super Bowl, the World Series, even when you consider that these two teams could meet again in the FA Cup semi-final and potentially in the Champions League. But it's this epic encounter living up to all the hype as we speak, because the two teams are playing some magnificent football. And I'll just give you one very quick stat, if I may, because on the 22 occasions when they've scored first, City have gone on to win this season. Liverpool are trying to change that. If they can change that today, then we will not only be on course for an epic second half, but also an epic run into this season.
Do you agree, Darren, that the winner today will go on and win the whole thing? I know there's a lot of football still to play, but that's what people are saying.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, Don. I think a victory would give City the chance to put daylight between themselves and the only team capable of giving them a real fight. I've been saying this to Patrick for a long, long time, Don, so I know you'll forgive me when I say it again. I think Liverpool are the team with the momentum, and I think a win for Liverpool at the home of the team that led the league for so long, that would give them a psychological boost and see the momentum swing their way. I think if Liverpool were to go on and win, they will win the Premier League this season.
There is so much to admire about both these teams, and their managers are the best in the business. Who do you think, though, that the players would rather play for if they could choose, Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp?
It's a really good question. I think they'd play for either, because both men are fantastic man managers. Both men are tactical geniuses, and they've got an ability to plunder trophies. Let me just give you one example. Virgil van Dijk had the opportunity a few years back to go to City. They really did want him, but he chose to go to Liverpool, and that hasn't gone too badly for him. He's won a Champions League, the Premier League. He's won this season's League Cup, and it could get even better. I've told you about other competitions that Liverpool are up against City and a couple of others for as well. So whatever manager you choose out of the pair of them, you can't go too far wrong.
Just quickly, Darren, in other news, Manchester United have had a miserable run, another miserable weekend, losing at Everton, to Everton. Their star forward, Cristiano Ronaldo, is accused of smashing a young fan's phone. What can you tell us about that? And that's surely not a good look for such a marketable athlete.
Absolutely. The footage appeared on social media yesterday after Manchester United's 2-1 defeat to Everton. Now, look, Ronaldo's a winner, which is why he stands as one of the greatest players of all time. And when he loses, it hurts. And it is all going horribly wrong at United, where defeat and a shocking performance to Everton left them with a mountain to climb in their chase for a place in next season's Champions League. Now, it's got to be said, Ronaldo has apologised on social media, and he has offered the fan the chance to be his guest at a game of his choice, or her choice, at Old Trafford. The only thing is, Don, I think the way that United are playing, the fan might well decline.
I think you're right. Darren Lewis, great to see you again, mate. Thanks very much. You know, I think many people take Tiger Woods for granted without perhaps realising just how much he's been through. It was certainly not guaranteed that he'd be playing the Masters this week. We're back at Augusta next to discuss one of the most extraordinary comebacks in sport. Tiger Woods is out on the course at Augusta playing the final round of the Masters. He is not going to be winning a 6th green jacket this year, but he has won so many new admirers for his determination and incredible spirit this week, playing on one of the toughest courses in the game and doing so just over a year after that horrific car crash. His body had already been through so much before the accident, 10 surgeries, 5 on his left knee, 5 on his back, and now there's all the rods and plates and screws that are in his right leg, a leg that could have been amputated. It is estimated that he's had at least 5 surgeries on that leg, but we don't know for sure. Clearly, he's been through so much. CNN Sports' Coy Wire has been marvelling at Tiger's grit this week. Coy played 9 years in the NFL and knows a thing or two about coming back from serious injury. Coy, it's great to see you. What has it been like for you to see Tiger in action?
Don, did you know this is my first time seeing Tiger play in person? And as a former pro athlete, it has been so impressive. So much respect for the physical and mental toughness. He has one of the highest pain thresholds of any athlete we've ever seen. But on top of that, Don, seeing the sea of people following him is awesome. Maybe the most crowded Masters ever. On top of Tiger being back, patrons with tickets from the height of the pandemic who couldn't come, they're here too. So with hordes of people, nearly impossible to see Tiger up close. People craning their necks, they're hoisting their kids up to get a glimpse of the GOAT. I've never seen so many grown men standing on tippy toes looking like a ballerina. It's incredible. If you ever wanted to see dad calves in all of their glory, I found out that it's at a golf course with people trying to get a glimpse of Tiger, and it is hilarious and telling of how much of a rock star he is.
Yeah, I remember those scenes well. I'm 6'3", and I really struggle to see Tiger Woods at the Masters because there's just so many people around him. Look, mate, can you give us a sense of the kind of rehab that he's been through? Because you've been through this kind of thing as well. Most of us have no idea what professional athletes experience when they get hurt, but I would imagine you can relate to him.
Yeah, it's another full-time job, Don, at night. And for Tiger, while the other younger players are getting a lot more relaxation. We're talking about stim machines that are sending electrical pulses through your muscles to further force out inflammation. It's the holds, it's the contractions to get your muscles firing properly. It's submerging into barrel loads of ice in a tub or oversized trash can, freezing yourself to death, as Tiger called it. 20 minutes in, 20 minutes out. You repeat that over and over again. It's compression machines and wraps preventing your leg from ballooning up at night. All of these are stressors that Tiger's doing each night. And this crash, as you alluded to coming into this, Don, all those injuries, it makes you forget about all of the other surgeries he's already had, about 15 overall, including a spinal fusion. I've only had 5. One of them is a spinal fusion from playing in the NFL. Mine's cervical, Tiger's is lumbar. Some days that alone, that radiating pain, especially on cold days like yesterday with the wind chills in the 40s or 4 degrees Celsius, you just want to lie down and hope the pain stops, but Tiger is out there pushing on. I think his superpower now, Don, is his ability to separate his body with all the pain and its perceptions from his mind, that he's able to focus on the game and the task at hand. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yesterday I read the golf writer Alan Shipnuck saying he hoped Tiger would withdraw from this 4th round in order to preserve his body for the other majors to come this year. What do you think about that? How big are the concerns that he might actually be hurting himself by playing this much this soon? I know he can fight through the pain, but the damage could be real.
It is a good thought, but Tiger pulling himself out, withdrawing himself from a competition to preserve himself is not happening. That is not an option in the mind of a champion like Tiger. The only way he withdraws, Don, is if he physically can't continue. The injuries that he has with the rod, the pins, the screws, Tiger has already said here this week that those things, they're locked in. There's metal holding him together. So Tiger's continuing to play, Don, because he's retraining his body to push through all of that pain. He's conditioning himself to be able to walk 72 holes again over a 4-day span. Remember, the last tournament he played in with his son, he was riding in a cart. This is all part of Tiger's conditioning and training to be able to continue playing in future tournaments. And the fact, Don, that this is even a possibility after all his body has been through makes him one of the toughest athletes we've ever seen, pulling yet again off another unthinkable comeback.
Yeah, well said. It is amazing. Coy Wyatt, great to see you, mate. Thanks very much.
Two-time.
From Augusta National to the Grand National, after the break, we'll bring you the extraordinary story of the amateur jockey who won the biggest prize in his very last race. We're back with some fabulous action from the slopes this weekend. This is the 16-year-old Japanese freestyle snowboarder Hiroto Ogiwara landing the first ever backside 2160. That is 6 full rotations in the air. For perspective, Shaun White won gold at the 2006 Olympics with a 1080. That's half as many spins as Ogiwara. Don't know about you, but I'm feeling dizzy just looking at it. What a weekend it has been at the Grand National. It's been a fantastic race with a fairy tale finish at the prestigious steeplechase at Aintree in England. The 50-1 outsider, Noble Yates, won it with the amateur jockey Sam Whaley-Cohen in the saddle on what was his very last ride. He is the first amateur jockey to win the National in more than 30 years. A wonderful achievement for a jockey who does this for a hobby. His day job is running a large dentistry firm, and I suspect that he won't be too bothered that the stewards have banned him for 9 days for his use of the whip. He'd already announced his retirement, and he is going out at the very top. Sports events are all great fun, of course, but we shouldn't forget that many people are really suffering right now, especially in Ukraine. And one of their top football teams is making sure that we don't forget. The Ukrainian Premier League league was suspended when Russia invaded their country back in February, but now Shakhtar Donetsk are playing a series of charity matches on Saturday. They kicked off that series by playing Olympiacos in Athens, and the players had the names of bombed towns and cities on their backs. All proceeds will be spent on aid to help those who've been affected. The captain afterwards said the players were crying in the locker room, adding that he hoped their message against war and for peace was heard. And that is it for this edition of World Sport. Thanks for your company. I'm Don Riddell at CNN Centre. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.
It's a race of endurance through some of Kenya's wildest, toughest terrain.
It's just a genuinely really difficult event and one of the best classic rallies in the entire world.
Classic cars are tested to the limit.
It is 5,000 kilometers. It's not a joke. It is a whole season of motorsports in other disciplines.
A flash of speed and engineering inspiring those along the way.
It doesn't matter what your upbringing was, it doesn't matter what your tribe was, your educational status. It's one thing that actually brought everyone together, and it has always been.
This is the East African Safari Classic Rally. This is Inside Africa. Early morning in Nairobi. With less than a week to go until his next rally, driver Eric Bengi is preparing for a long-haul journey.
You need to be very fit, your mind needs to be very strong to keep the concentration high throughout the course. So training is inevitable, and generally to keep fit. For Classic, it's a long marathon. You need a lot of endurance, and you really need to be prepared for it, both physically and mentally. A couple of years ago, I had a prolapse disc, and sometimes you really need to look forward to do something to get out of one problem. And as you can see, in motorsport, I'm doing 5,000 kilometers. I cannot be fitter than that. So yeah, it has helped me get out of that, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Despite the intensive training, motorsports is still a hobby for Eric Bengi, as with other Kenyan competitors.
So far in Kenya, we don't have any factory drivers. You need to finance your rally, so you need to work. Personally, on a day-to-day basis, I'm a lawyer, but over the weekends, we try and make as much time as possible for motorsports and to enjoy ourselves.
Motorsports has a huge following in Kenya. Last year, the World Rally Championships returned to the country, the only African location in the world's highest rally competition.
Kenya is known for mostly athletics, but athletics does not draw as many crowds as rally does. I think because athletics is mostly run within a very confined space, so it's within a stadium and it's very, very controlled. But rally has the ability to draw people from all walks of life and to follow vehicles, like they're here today, they're here tomorrow, so you also get to enjoy the beauty of your country.
Rallying has a long history in Kenya, dating back to the 1950s.
It was initially started off as a coronation rally, and it just grew in popularity with manufacturers. Eventually it became a stronghold event for three manufacturers, namely Datsun, Toyota and Lancia. And they would spend an enormous amount of money and equipment on just to win the Safari Rally.
The rally is something that was a big national event. Sometimes it would actually be carried live on TV. So we'd actually be at home watching the rally, and so we'd say, okay, fine, the first car has left. It just gives us enough time to actually now run to the road to be able to catch the cars as they're passing by.
As a village boy, it would pass in the wee hours of the morning. Our old man would actually take us out at about 3 a.m. in the morning just to see the cars passing by. That time, the roads were just murram roads, and most of the time it was very wet. So it was quite a spectacle to get out there and see the cars coming sideways. It was quite enjoyable, and that's where my interest grew from.
This will be Eric Bengi's first time competing in the East African Safari Classic. Independent from the WRC, an international race, the Safari Classic is now a regional event modeled after the old-style rallies, a 9-day, 5,000-kilometer endurance race across Kenya. Some routes stretch over 700 kilometers in a day, distances that even test the aces, like American Ken Block.
The difficulty of it is the length of it and the fact that you're doing the national event anywhere in the world for rally, like all in one day. So I think overall, it's almost like doing 10 or 11 of our national rallies all in one event. So it's more than our entire national championship.
The team that drives fastest overall wins. But it's a real challenge on the car, which must be built before 1985.
You see, the uniqueness of this event, you have to complete 24 stages. And if you are not sensible with your car and you break down, you can't be classified as a finisher. But you can continue unclassified at the back of the field. So one has to really take care of his car. You need to strategize.
At the mechanic stage, teams have limited time to fix their cars. 46 teams are competing this year, coming from South Africa, Italy, and Sweden, among others, bringing some of the world's fastest classic rally cars, like Porsche 911, Ford Escort. Eric Bengi is driving a 1974 Datsun.
What they allow us to do, the cars are pretty standard from factory. We're not allowed to change the engine shape, the gearbox, but you can play around with the interiors. But ideally, you're supposed to have a car, maintain it as much as possible as it was when it left the showroom in, let's say, 1974.
With a 1,800cc engine, Eric is an underdog, competing against cars with engines almost double that capacity. They still have plenty of work left to do today, and the clock is counting down. Tomorrow, competitors must race over hundreds of miles without knowing exactly where they're going.
Classic is a blind rally, and that's the fun about it. You need to be very attentive, you need to listen to your navigator, you need to pace yourself correctly. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Countdown at time control. To find the classic car speedsters here, look for the dust in their wake. This is the East African Safari Classic Rally. Kenya's Amboseli region is the site of today's race. Known for its large herds of elephants and marshes fed by Mount Kilimanjaro.
We're in good spirits. We say that when you meet a herd of elephants, it's a sign of good luck. So we actually had to give way for 2 herds of elephants to pass. So I think we better have a good day.
A week into the race, they still have more than 1,100 kilometers to go. Reaching speeds of up to 210 kilometers per hour, teams must travel the roads, sight unseen. It's known as a blind rally.
In motorsports, like in rallies, crews get to check the route with the road books, and then they can populate it with their more detailed information that they would want. Our rally, we create the book, we make it as concise as possible, and nobody knows where we are rallying. It's a hidden secret. It's the hardest secret to keep. So they approach the rally not knowing what conditions they're going to have, although I will summarize it for them. But yeah, you come blind into the rally. everyone's on a level playing field.
In charge of creating the route and roadbook is Raju Chaga, the clerk of course.
So this is the stage we will run tomorrow in the morning. All the rally cars will come this way. But there's some nice mud that I want you to just quickly visualize. See, down here, every time I've come, there's always been lions, so we might get lucky.
Over the last year, Chaga says he's driven some 52,000 kilometers along the rally routes, making the detailed roadbook which outlines the directions and GPS points for competitors. Chaga must return to these routes multiple times. Roadwork or a heavy downpour could throw off his directions.
Kenya in general, the weather plays a big role here, and you could have checked and planned a route in dry season, and maybe a rally is running in the wet season, and it'll be a complete different ball game. Mud comes into play, and if it is dry, it's the dry conditions, they call it the talcum powder. It is so unique, this country, for rallying, so unique.
Each afternoon, teams receive the next day's roadbook. Navigator Gatimu Mindu works with Eric Bengi. He must study the notes, which shares key features, distances, curves, towns and trees along the route.
Most important thing is to, first of all, get the notes ready, just to give him a brief of what I've seen, what the kind of terrain that I'm expecting to, that we'll find, just to prep him mentally. Then once we are in the car, just call the notes, make sure that, first of all, of course, audible, and also make sure that it's precise. He hears, he understands the next note, and just flow, 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 flow.
To run in motorsport, your mind needs to be very sharp. You need to be very attentive because every other minute you are listening to an instruction. Again, you need to be very, very focused on what you are doing because it is just about you and the road and your maker.
The route travels within protected conservancies as well as on open or public roads, adding complications that even a roadbook cannot predict.
Over the years, because of safety reasons, most of the rallies we take them on closed farms. But Classic is a different ball game altogether. We have to go on open roads. It is not as fast as the other rallies. And I guess the villagers will have a very good time watching cars passing near their doorstep.
You tell a Kenyan there's a rally coming up, they'll leave everything, pack their car, and they'll be out in the bush. They're willing to spend 9 hours out there in the sun just to watch the rally. It's very unique. I think we're crazy.
It's one of the world's toughest classic car rallies, the East African Safari Classic. A 9-day, 5,000-kilometer test of endurance, pitting man and machine against the Kenyan open road. Along the route, people stop and cheer. Some end up getting involved.
trunk two-door in their Triumph came, I think, sort of like overshot the hairpin and actually got into the culvert. I think it just shows the spirit of the classic rally, whereas in other events like the WRC, it is actually not allowed for external assistance to be given to the drivers. Here it is actually okay.
That is proper classic safari rally spirit.
That's just one thing that sets this race apart.
This is a rally for the legends. It is a rally for people who have participated in motorsport over years. They have made their achievements and they are coming for this long endurance race. Secondly, it is 5,000 kilometers. It's not a joke. It is a whole season of motorsport in other disciplines.
Known for his speed and hair-raising tricks, or stunts, international rally champion Ken Block has won 5 X Games medals in his 17-year career. His Gymkhana video series has had more than 500 million views, according to Block's Hoonigan racing team.
Coming down and racing here at this particular rally, I just regard it as one of the coolest old-style rallies that I could possibly do. So I've always wanted to come and do it, and they run the classic rally in a very unique way, all rear-wheel drive cars, all older cars, and so it's just a genuinely really difficult event and one of the best classic rallies in the entire world.
On this rally, there are different kinds of roadblocks.
I actually came around a corner and there was a pack of maybe 30 camels in the middle of the road. I've encountered elephants, giraffes, lots of zebras, monkeys, so that's what makes this so unique, that there's times that we're either in a national park or we're out on the outskirts of a national park, and it's like driving through a zoo, you know, like it's incredible. So I've come here before and done safari a couple times in a couple of these areas, but to actually race on these roads and be competing, it's really incredible to see all that wildlife out from the window of my rally car.
But these rough roads do not go easy on anyone. A puncture can set you back several minutes, as drivers and navigators must fix roadside issues on the spot. Others' car issues are more serious.
Ball joint broke on the suspension over the water bar there. It's impossible to drive 70 k's with it. We would have to drag the front end, so we're stuck.
But someone is always watching. Clerk of course, Raju Chugga, designed the rally route and now must ensure safety from this roving control room, which must move with the rally.
We've restarted this morning and we are basically rallying in and around Ambosali area. So far everything's gone well. We've had unfortunately one accident. The technology at the background allows us to determine how severe the accident has been, and then we are able to action our medical assistances, which are on ground, and they were there within the 6 minutes. The systems we have for the rallies, it evolves a lot. So we have tracking systems on cars. We also have the SOS function. We've added a new feature, which is a Garmin Montana. It actually gives them audible alerts for triple cautions, big hazards. If there are requests for incident queries, in case our competitors had some problem against another driver, the system also lets us replay the stage so we can see what's happened, and it gives us raw data, so if we have to apply penalties or anything in that nature, this is how we do it. And we do this all the way till day 9. It's hard work.
With 2 days left in the race, the cars are starting to show some wear.
We've had a challenge with our rear arms. The left arm, we're changing the third one today. There's been a bit of a challenge with that, and also the right arm. Our suspension is not sitting very well at the back because we're not able to get the exact right springs setting for the car.
These pre-1985 cars come with their own issues.
The challenges are quite a number. The main one being getting spare parts for this car. As you know, it's an old car. It's a 1974 built car. So even getting spares that can work with it has been a bit of a challenge. So we've had to really work on keeping what we have and trying to get them to drive sensibly enough to maintain the parts that we have for the entire duration of the rally.
I can tell you the logistics in Classic is a nightmare. You're moving from town to town and you're only staying there for a single day. Preparation for the fuel, preparation for the service cars. It's a whole logistical nightmare if you think about it that way. We are happy with today's stages. They are very, very fast. We hope we made some good times. Right now, overall, I think we should be lying about 17th. Touch on wood, we have not had any major issues with the car since day one. Strategically, we first preserved the car on the very rough stages, and from day 3, we have started pushing a little bit, just to make up a little bit of time and to maintain our position. Right now, we are at service park. We have about 2 hours to work on the car. We are working on a few things. One is the oil pump, 2 is the check on the suspension. But basically, the car is in good order. The mechanics are taking out to test how it is riding. Yeah, so far so good.
It's a race to the finish at the East African Safari Classic Rally, as drivers take on some of Kenya's toughest roads in some of the world's fastest classic cars. But on the roadsides, capturing the moments comes with its own set of obstacles.
Cars are moving so fast, it could be something very slight, a lack of concentration on the driver's side, or maybe like the driver hitting a stone can actually make the car swerve towards you. So I always say, do not get killed when trying to get killer shots. Hairpins are very interesting because it's nice, you can get the car coming and negotiating that in the corner in a very nice way. Whenever there's sort of like jumps, it is nice because you can catch a car that's airborne. There's no really template per se, you just go by what has nature served me today, so let me just use that to make a beautiful image.
Moav grew up loving rallies. He'd make his own cars out of wire and watch the rally cars zoom by his Nairobi childhood home. He used to cut out newspaper clippings featuring the top drivers.
Me now, fast forward 30 or so years later, being the person who's responsible for those kind of images, it's almost like coming full circle.
Driving along the rally route, Moav sets up near action, sometimes capturing a photo of a boy like him. He aims to show what's happening beyond the rally car.
Almost anybody can take a photo of a fast-moving vehicle. But what I'm seeking to do is be able to bring some context into the images. I just found the first hairpin and parked our vehicles at the side of the road, and then I just waited for the action to happen.
Drivers push themselves to the limit, and a nation feels the excitement, continuing a Kenyan tradition of uniting around motorsports.
It did not matter what class you are from, it did not matter what your upbringing was, it did not matter what your tribe was, your educational status, or even your age. It's one thing that actually brought everyone together, and it has always been.
Winning the race in a Porsche 911, Kenyan Baldev Chagar. Despite never having won a single stage, Chagar ran a strategic drive by maintaining a safe speed, proving, well, fast and steady wins the race.
Fantastic job from this man here.
Yeah, and this guy
What a
here.
legend. Spot on the notes. super accurate, all the confidence in the world just having him next to me.
And in their first Safari Classic, Eric Bengi and his team finished at 17th place.
Very excited to be on the finish line. First of all, excited to have had an opportunity to participate in this event, and now excited to be in top 20. That, for me, that was actually the dream.
Making their mark as the first all-indigenous Kenyan team to compete in the event.
Kenyans are very passionate and very enthusiastic about motorsports. We have a lot of competitors out there. Many of them, yes, they may not have made it into motorsport because of budget constraints, but Kenyans love motorsports. So it's a big thing here, and it's a big industry. There's room for development, and I think with more and more events coming up, we can even develop new talent and get them out there running.
In this race with some of the world's best, Kenyan participants have held their own, claiming 3 of the top 5 positions.
This is our backyard. These are the roads we grew up on. These are the roads we used when going to school, going to work, going to the farm. So it's roads and terrains that we're very familiar with. So it comes as no surprise that we have local drivers taking the top spots within the rally. Somebody may come with a racing pedigree from the US or Europe, but man, this is Africa and we play it different.